Hey guys, today we're going to be assembling a 44mm Brewmaster Chrono DIY kit. It's made from reclaimed craft beer barrels and it has a carbonized wood finish. We're making this video so you can build your watch along with us. Take your time while executing these steps and let's jump right into it. Okay, after you find a nice clean surface with some good lighting, you're going to want to open up your DIY kit. Pop open the lid. Let's take a look inside. You'll see we have our scan for instructions here. You can just scan this with your phone. It will take you to the site that has all the instructions that you're going to need to assemble this watch. The first thing you see is all the watch components, which we'll get to all those. Just so you're aware, underneath this first layer is actually all the tools that you're going to need to assemble the watch. So you have your watch stand, your duster, your link pin tool, your hammer, your screwdriver, and this is your spring bar tool. You have the finger cots and the monocle. Those are a fielder's choice. You don't have to use them, but they're there if you'd like to use them. To assemble the watch case, you're going to start by grabbing your dial. Pop open your dial. You're going to grab your watch case. As you can see, it has the wood bezel already assembled. We're going to need our crown, but we're going to leave it in here now just for safety. These are pretty fragile piece, so we're going to leave in your crown. This is your movement holder. We'll grab that out. And then underneath your case back here on the left is actually a battery. And you're going to need that. So these are the components you're going to need to start out with. Go ahead and pop open the battery so it's accessible. First thing that I like to do is really clean everything. So I'm going to grab my duster and we have our cloth. I like to just wipe everything down. You know, these have been shipped around, so just want to make sure everything's clean before we assemble anything. To be too careful here on the case, you kind of just spot heal everything and also just dust it out with the duster. Just give it a few blows, make sure she's good. Where you're going to want to be extra careful pretty much throughout this whole process is here with this dial. The reason is because it has, you know, attached indices. As you can see, it has the hands, second hands, your chronograph hands. These are all applied already. So if you push down on them, things could get bent and warped. And if you know, as you can imagine, you push on the second hand, and then once we get it started, it's going to potentially scrape along the dial. So just be pretty careful as you take this out. As you can see, it's already been protected, so I just give it kind of a dust. Just kind of make sure, so I can see some small particles flying around, but nothing too crazy. Kind of clean the area. Should be good. So you go ahead and pull this out. Again, just maintain, just being fragile, but nothing too crazy. All right, now that we have our watch case components laid out, we're actually gonna flip everything over. Just be careful with the dial as always. Flipping over the case. You're gonna grab your battery. One thing to note is the edge side is gonna remain facing upward. There's a blank side that goes downward. So the edge side is upward. So go ahead and slide it in the movement slot here for the battery. Slide it in and you're gonna get a little hung up here on the left side, and because there's a little tab. And at this point you can grab your screwdriver, kind of push it down, kind of pull it towards you, slide it to the side so that the battery can then slide into its place. So it's kind of getting held up on the side. Grab that little tab with and then push it down. So you just kind of pull it to the side, tab, and then push the battery in with the screwdriver. Something to take note is on a chronograph, the second is actually being counted here on the chrono, on the sub dial here. So sometimes people think that this main second hand is what keeps the second count, but is actually being counted here in the sub dial. All right, now that we have our battery assembled to the dial, go ahead and flip it over. And you're going to want to assemble your movement holder. Pay attention to the little slots that are in here, and also there's pushers obviously on the crown here. So these things are going to push into these small kind of metal components that's going to start and stop the timer. So just pay attention to that as you put on your movement holder, because you're going to want to have space for those two pushers, but also your crown that slides in at the 3 o'clock. So there's a small hole for that. So here we go, we're going to assemble it here, and there's a small hole. There's extra holes, so don't get too carried away, but because you know you get your crown and then your two pushers that are exposed and able to be kind of pushed in via the pushers. Looks good. Okay. Pusher, crown, pusher. Back into the assembly. Pushers. There we go. So it's a little bit of prying, a little bit of pressure, nothing too aggressive. So now you have your dial inside your case. It's level, it's even, and we're in a good place. The next thing that you can do before you apply the case back in the stem is just kind of give these pushers a go. So the top pusher is going to start and stop your timer that's begun. You can stop it and then you can reset it with this button. So now we know our pushers are assembled in the right place. Next thing we're going to do is apply our crown. So we grab our crown and we're gonna apply it here at the 3 o'clock. Flipping this back over so you can take a look. So there's a small point of entry for the crown. Make sure, and then just apply just a little bit of pressure, and you'll feel little clicks along the way, and that's your crown getting connected to the movement. So a little bit of pressure, kind of get it in place. After that's in there, just kind of make sure everything's kind of held together firmly. Flipping it back over. Now that this has been pushed in, go ahead and give that dial a pull out, one click, and you'll be able to see the date function start to move. So give the dial, or give the crown one click out, and then you'll see the date function start to move. Give it another pull, and you'll be able to change the time. So this tells me that the movement is assembled correctly. Push it back in, your time will start here on the sub dial. Flipping it back over, we're now going to assemble the case back. So we can go ahead and grab our case back. You see the two holes on top, 2 holes on bottom. So you're going to want to assemble the case back with those holes aligned. The next thing we're going to do is grab the case back screws. So these are really small. Just be really careful not to lose these case back screws. So you're going to pop out these, put them on the work surface. Go back to your screwdriver, and we're going to begin to assemble the case back. All right, now that we have all our screws in, just give them another once over, make sure they're tight. This is what seals your watch from any moisture getting into the case. So go back and give all these screws another half twist. Okay. Your case is now assembled. Okay, the next step is going to be assembly of the band. As you see, we have extra links if you need to insert extra links, but for the meantime, we're going to assemble the top and bottom section of the band. So when you pull out your band, you'll see the clasp is already attached. This is actually the bottom section of your band. So if there's a clasp attached to it, it's the bottom section. And then this would be for the top section. One thing to take note is what goes closest to the case if you flip them over, there's these little slots, and this is where the spring pin goes. So this part is going to be closest to the watch case. So now that those are in place, we grab our spring bars. So you're gonna grab your spring bar, one goes to each side. The spring bar will collapse on each side when you apply pressure. So flipping this over, you see the slot that the spring bar slides into, slide it in. You're gonna wanna use your spring bar tool. How I like to approach this is I'll actually take a look on the inside, and there's two little grooves on the case where the spring bar will kind of push into. All right, so once you have your spring bar inside the watch band, go ahead and favor one side, place it into the groove. And at this point, the only thing that should be holding you back is the opposite side of the spring bar, in which you take your tool and collapse the spring bar. And you'll feel it kind of pop into place. At this point, your band is on a swivel and your spring bar is set. Now we're going to assemble the top side of the band. You apply the spring bar to the top. Favor one side. The only thing holding you back is this side. So I like to use my thumb to apply a little pressure. And then take your spring bar tool and collapse the spring bar. Then it should be kind of in underneath, you can see, but then you kind of got to move it around and you'll hear it. There you go. And then it's in place and your band is on a swivel. And your band is now assembled. Okay, now that your watch case and band is assembled, we're going to connect the clasp to the other side of the band. So as you flip this over, you'll notice there's two grooves. Those are for micro adjustments. So when you put in one side of the band, if it's too big, you can either remove a link or you could do a micro adjustment and move it to the other. So I like to target the outer groove. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our buckle spring bar, pop open one of those. This is the same concept as the spring bar for the case, just with the buckle. Okay, enter in the spring bar and target one side of the clasp. Once you get it in there, maintain a little bit of pressure, and you're going to grab your spring bar tool and collapse the spring bar while pushing it in, and then you'll see it get into each side of the groove. Your clasp is now assembled. Your movement is working correctly, and you have a finished Brewmaster 44 DIY watch.